earlier this year, I had a check deposited into my account, and while I was expecting that check and I knew the check was coming, I hadn't really had a chance to reflect. And when I did, I realized that that one check was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. That one check covered a full year's worth of work at my previous job. And I sat down and I began to talk to God, and I cried. But I didn't cry because of no money. I didn't cry because of money. I didn't cry because of any level of success that I've reached. Let me explain something to you. Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, is the same age as I am, and he's worth over $70 billion. So I'd be a fool to celebrate this level of success as though I've reached some pinnacle that no one else has reached, or as though I was so great, right? No. Because I understand deep down inside that I've got a long way to go to get to someone like Mark Zuckerberg. I've got a long way to go, and I'm going to continue to grind until either I reach that pinnacle or I die trying. So that's not why I cried. I cried because Coach Dow, my high school basketball coach and my father figure, my grandmother, Ruth L. Macklin, my great-grandmother, Minnie Lee Hurd, I cried because the man that they helped to raise, the boy that they pumped so much energy and effort into, they're not alive today to see the byproduct of the man that he's become. That's why I cried. I cried because my entire life I can remember my mother working at McDonald's and at Walmart, and I can remember my mother putting my clothes in layaway. And I was so selfish, and I lacked the understanding of the fact that my mom put clothes in layaway not because it was normal, not because that's what everybody did, but my mother did that because she was willing to do whatever it took for me to have what I needed, and she didn't have the money to afford to buy it outright. That's why I cried. I cried because I could remember my father selling his only car and walking to work so that we would have our first home. Teaching me sacrifice, teaching me the things that you do for your family, teaching me the things that you do for your children. I cried because I could remember being at the University of Memphis and I worked 3 jobs while I was in undergrad. And one night I had a paper to do, so I ended up staying up 36 consecutive hours, and I was so tired that I started to throw up. See, that's why I cried. I cried because I can remember the days traveling from city to city, job to job, trying to find my niche. And I remember depression trying to take me out. I remember days when depression tried to make me think that my life was not worth living. Depression made me think that I should just give up. That's why I cried. I cried because as a grown man over the age of 20, I cried because of the humbling days where I had to move back in with my parents to ensure that I was able to take care of my children, or I had to move back in with my parents to ensure that I was able to carry out my 5-year, my 10-year plan. I had to make those sacrifices. And there's nothing more humbling than being a grown man having to move back in with your parents while all your friends are out living out on their own and doing their own thing and getting married and being successful. And you've got to move back in with your parents. That's why I cried. I cried because there were days where I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together and nobody else knew it. I cried because of the millions of times I've been told no. The multiple jobs that I've applied for that have told me no. The times that I've looked for a promotion and they've told me no. No, Elvin, this job is not for you. No, Elvin, we found someone with better qualifications than you. No, Elvin, maybe we'll have another promotion soon. No, Elvin, no, Elvin, no, Elvin. I was consistently told no. So because of my testimony, under no circumstances and for no reason will I apologize for any level of success that I've obtained. And neither should you. See, number one, I know and I understand that without God, without my Creator, none of this is possible. Without my Creator ordering my steps, without God holding my head high when people were telling me no, without God encouraging me to press on when I wanted to give up, I know that nothing would be obtainable. And number 2, I've been through hell and high water to get to where I am today, and so have you. See, I know the struggle. I know everything I went through. I know the days where I was alone and I cried. I know the days where I was too embarrassed to tell people I didn't have any money, so I let my pride keep me from reaching out for help. I remember those days. I remember days when my mother would come to my apartment when I was in college, and she looked at my face and she could tell I wasn't eating. And she would go out and buy me groceries. The whole time I never shared that with her. See, I remember the struggle. So because I remember the struggle and I know I'm not responsible for my success, I'm not apologizing for anything that I've been able to achieve. And I don't want you to do that either. But here's the key. I'm no better than you. And neither is anyone else who has achieved any level of success. I'm going to repeat that. I'm no better than you. See, in life we have the haves and the have-nots. And most of the time when we think about the haves and the have-nots, we think about it financially. But no, I want to put a different spin on it for you. See, the haves have and the have-nots have not. The haves have a winner attitude. The haves have that hustler spirit. The haves have a level of grind that the average can't even imagine. The haves have that championship mentality. And on the other hand, the have-nots have not. The have-nots do not possess the attributes and the qualities that it takes to become great, so they have not. They have not because they have not. See, success is no accident. No. Success is not an accident. People don't just wake up and trip and fall and they're successful. But neither is failure. If you find somebody who's successful and you learn their story 9 times out of 9 is going to look completely different from that person that did not succeed in life. It's a process. It's a process. The lion didn't just wake up one morning and become the king of the jungle. The lion didn't just wake up and self-proclaim himself as the king of the jungle accidentally. No. The lion has developed a reputation for being the most ferocious, for being the hungriest, for operating under a kill or be killed attitude. The lion gets after it, so the lion eats. See, the lion doesn't play victim in a world where there's the victim versus the victor. No. See, let me explain something to you. In life, we have the victims and we have the victors. All a victim's going to do is complain to somebody else and look for somebody else to fix their problem. Victims are looking for handouts. Victims are looking for somebody else to make it better for them. Victims are blaming everybody else for the reasons that they didn't become successful except themselves. A victor stands up every day. A victor stands up every day, looks at themselves in the mirror and determines, how can I be better? What do I need to do to be great? See, victims make excuses and victors, they produce results. That's it. That's it. And to become successful, you have to decide which you're going to be. Are you going to be a victim or are you going to be a victor? See, in life, there are 3 types of people, right? It's 3 types of people. There are those that think they can. There are those that don't think they can. And there are those that know they can. And all 3 of those people have one thing in common. They're all usually right. Right? The people who think they can, maybe they'll be successful, maybe they won't. The people that don't think they can, they have no chance. They will not become successful. It's over. Everything that happens, every action that's carried out, every level of success, every growth that you have in life starts in your mind. And if you don't think you can, you will not. Trust me. And those that know they can, they know that nothing is too great for them to conquer. They know that no level of success is too high of a pinnacle for them to reach. They know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if they put in the grind, if they put in the work, if they go hard every single day and they don't take breaks, they know on the other end there's a reward. But see, you have to ask yourself, what sacrifices are you willing to make? What sacrifices are you willing to make? I know some people can't achieve a certain level of greatness because they don't want to sacrifice going out on the weekends. They don't want to sacrifice the money that they're going to spend going out of the country to invest in their business. They don't want to sacrifice time with their significant others. You got to be willing to sacrifice. You only have so much room in your life. There's only 24 hours in a day. And you're going to have to be willing to give up something to achieve that level of success that you want to achieve. See, you can't fool greatness. No. You can't fool greatness. So you can lie to me. You can lie to your mama. You can lie to your father. You can lie to your boss at work. But you can't fool greatness. See, greatness is only for the elite. Greatness only allows the elite into its gates, and it knows your every move. Greatness is like God. It sees all. And you can't walk into the gates of greatness if you're cheating. You can't cheat greatness. You see it every day. I'm grinding. I'm hustling. I'm working. I'm putting in work. Let me tell you something. Winter's gonna come. And when winter comes, it's gonna expose if you've been working through the summer. It's gonna expose if you've been working through the fall. So you can talk all day long. Talk is cheap. What are you doing to actually make your goals become reality today? What are you doing to walk with the greats? What are you doing to ensure that when you walk to the gates of greatness, that the gates are open willingly? What are you doing today to make for sure that you reach that level of greatness? Oftentimes when I speak with people that I've mentored, people that I've coached, people that I've helped develop, I ask them one question. I ask them, do you understand the difference between ordinary and extraordinary? Most people go into this Webster dictionary definition, right? Where they discuss the fact that ordinary is kind of average, right? Some of the synonyms for ordinary are normal, customary, regular, basic. And when we look at extraordinary, we're looking at attributes and synonyms such as remarkable, exceptional, phenomenal. But through all of these synonyms, there's one word that separates extraordinary and ordinary. And it stops them right in their track. And that word is extra. Extra. People who are ordinary are ordinary. People who are extraordinary are above and beyond. No. See, what are you doing extra each day? Are you willing to put in that extra hour at work? Are you willing to make that one extra phone call? Are you willing to do those 5 more extra reps? Right? What extra are you willing to do to ensure that you're not regular? What extra are you willing to do to ensure that you do walk along with the phenomenal people in this world? What are you doing that's extra? Because if you're not doing anything extra, you're always going to be ordinary, average, just a chip off the old block. But if you want greatness, there has to be something that stands out about you. You have to be willing to go above and beyond because you understand that you never want to be trapped in ordinary. You never want to be average. Nothing upsets me more than seeing someone with talent and it not coming to fruition and them not achieving a certain level of success because they won't do the extra to become extraordinary. There's a quote by Albert Einstein that says, "The one who follows the crowd will usually get no further than the crowd. The one who walks alone is likely to find themselves in places no one else has ever been before." That's Albert Einstein. You can't be great following a crowd. I want to repeat that because we live in a world and social media and there's so much advertising of, being like everyone else, and there's this natural instinct in most people that wants them, that they desire to be like everyone else, but you can't be great following a crowd. See, the top is lonely. right? When you achieve a certain level of success, when you reach a certain pinnacle, when you achieve a certain level of greatness, everybody else can't come along with you. You know why? Because everybody else hasn't been putting in the time. Everybody else hasn't been putting in the effort. Everybody else hasn't been doing those extra things that it takes to become extraordinary. So you left them at ordinary. And you have to be okay with that. Right? You have to be okay being different. You have to be okay walking in your own greatness. There's this phrase that I've always lived my life by, and a lot of people who have achieved any level of success, I'm sure, will agree that without this phrase, they may not be where they are today. But the phrase says, live like no one else will, so later you can live like no one else can. Live like no one else will, so that later you can live like no one else can. It took me over 10 years after my college graduation to stop living as much like no one else will, and to at least start to see some of the fruits of living like no one else can. Right? Over the last 10, 12 years, I've watched as my friends have moved into large houses before me. I've watched as my friends have bought new cars. I've watched as my friends have traveled out of the country. Y'all, I didn't travel out of the country until last year for the first time. I didn't have a passport. No. Because I was too busy living like no one else will. I was too busy putting money back for my business. I was too busy sacrificing time out of town and energy out of town to build my brand. I was too busy making sacrifices so that at some point I could begin to live like no one else can. What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to put on the back burner to ensure that you achieve that level of success that your heart desires? So if you want to achieve success, if you want to be great, if you want to walk in favor, there are 3 things you need to do. Number 1, you got to be committed. You got to be committed to the journey. You got to be committed to the process. You got to be committed to the walk. You have to be committed to the grind. Number 2, you have to stop feeling sorry for yourself. Nobody in this world owes you anything. And the minute you start to realize that, and the minute you take heed to that, you'll find you'll take yourself up 2 or 3 levels just off of that alone. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Everybody's got a testimony. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's been through hardships. Everybody who has achieved a certain level of greatness has been through something. So stop making excuses. And lastly, you got to surround yourself with the right people. There's somebody in your life, there's some people in your life, there's some influences in your life that do not belong. And human nature shows, if you want to see how somebody will turn out, if you want to see how somebody operates, look at their friends, look at their inner circle, look at the people that are closest to them. You may have to cut some people off. You may have to distance yourself from people. I can't begin to tell you the amount of people that I've had to distance myself from. And I'm okay with it. Because I realized that whether I loved them, whether I liked them, whether I felt like they were a good person or not, they were not meant for my journey. And it takes a courageous person to be willing to cut off people that they're close to achieve a certain level of greatness. It's sacrifice. It's grind season. Let's get it.